Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Race to Power with me, Raisha Sehgal. On the show tonight, we will tell you about how India is standing up to Trump's tariff tirade. New Delhi has now called Trump's additional 25% tariff as unjustified and unreasonable, with Prime Minister Modi clearly saying that India will not compromise on the well-being of its farmers. And well, from the United States of America, we will tell you how US President Donald Trump has now threatened federal takeover of Washington, D.C., saying that he will deploy National Guard at the national capital of the US. But the question we asked tonight on the show is, can Trump take federal control of Washington, D.C.? All right, US President Donald Trump has unleashed an unprecedented tariff onslaught on India, doubling down on his earlier 25% tariff announcement. Trump announced 25% additional tariffs on India, and the reaction from New Delhi was quick and firm. A statement from India's External Affairs Ministry called the fresh tariffs unfair, unjustified and unreasonable. Early in the day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said he is ready to pay personal price but will not compromise on the well-being of the farmers.
हमारे लिए अपने किसानों का हित सर्वोच्च प्राथमिकता है। भारत अपने किसानों के, पशुपालकों के और मछुआरे भाई बहनों के हितों के साथ कभी भी समझौता नहीं करेगा। और मैं जानता हूं व्यक्तिगत रूप से मुझे बहुत बड़ी कीमत चुकानी पड़ेगी, लेकिन मैं इसके लिए तैयार हूं। मेरे देश के किसानों के लिए, मेरे देश के मछुआरों के लिए, मेरे देश के पशुपालकों के लिए आज भारत तैयार है।
New Delhi was the first one to get on the table with Washington, but in the middle of negotiations and slew of roundtable discussions, US President Donald Trump announced a self-imposed deadline, putting pressure on New Delhi to strike a deal before the time. Once Trump launched his unilateral tariff tirade against India, New Delhi, in a calibrated response, chose to stand its ground. But what prompted this trade war between world's biggest and fourth largest economy, whose bilateral trade is worth over $190 billion? The talks are stuck on energy imports from Russia and opening up India's agriculture sector to the US. New Delhi treats agriculture sector as a red line when it comes to foreign trade. More than half of India's population draws its livelihood from agriculture-related activities. Indian farmers operate in small farms. Opening up agriculture sector will make it hard for low-income Indian farmers to compete with US agri-giants. India is also not ready to flinch on import of Russian oil. India is now the third largest oil consumer. New Delhi has made it clear it will take all required steps to protect its economic security. New Delhi pointedly mentioned that US is singling out India while still importing goods from Russia itself. Responding to this, Trump said he had no idea about that at all.
India says that the US imports Russian uranium, chemicals, fertilizers, while criticizing their energy imports. Your response to that, sir?
I don't know anything about it. I'd have to check, but we'll get back to you on that.
Well, for now, India is holding its ground. Trump's tariff tirade has failed to intimidate New Delhi. With Indian Prime Minister's statement, the red lines for India-US trade deal is drawn, and now it's time for quiet negotiations behind closed doors. The new rate will come into effect in 21 days from now, setting the date of tariff implementation on India to August 27th. Well, let's now take a look at some of the political reactions coming from India.
$90 billion.
It will affect all of us.
We have $90 billion of trade with the United States. If all the things will be 50% more expensive, people will think, why buy Indian goods? Our government should understand and answer back.
Trump is trying to put pressure on the country. It is very childish behavior. PM Modi has declared that all decisions will be taken in the interest of farmers, people and the nation.
In other news, US President Donald Trump has reignited his threat for the federal takeover of Washington, D.C. and has not ruled out bringing in the National Guard to help handle crime in the city. Trump's remarks comes after former Department of Government Efficiency employee, DOGE employee, was assaulted in an attempted carjacking case. When asked by a reporter whether taking over the Metropolitan Police Department is an option on the table, Trump said it was.
And do you want Congress to look at overturning the D.C. Home Rule Act?
We're going to look at that. In fact, the lawyers are already studying it. We have to run D.C. This has to be the best run place in the country, not the worst run place in the country. And it has so much potential. And we're going to take care of it. You're going to be safe. You're going to be safe walking down streets.
Right, Trump says that if D.C. does not get its act together and quickly, we will have no choice but to take federal control of the city and run the city how it should be run and put criminals on notice that they are not going to get away with it anymore. Well, this statement by the US President, it comes a day after he threatened city leaders on his Truth Social platform. And this is not the first time that the Trump administration has threatened to send National Guard into the US Capitol. Just 2 months ago, Trump deployed the National Guard to LA in a bid to quell demonstrations over immigration raids. Not just that. In 2020 as well, Trump administration deployed the National Guard in Washington, D.C. in the wake of George Floyd's murder. According to initial police department data, violent crime in Washington, D.C. fell in the first half of 2025 by 26% compared with a year earlier. However, the burning question right now is that can the U.S. president take federal control of Washington, D.C.? Experts say that it is possible, but it's not that simple because Trump will have to get Congress to agree. A full federal takeover of the district would require an act of Congress in which both the House and the Senate would need to vote to repeal the 1973 Home Rule Act, which grants residents the right to elect their own city government. And well, for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani is joining us on the phone line from New York. Hi, Susan. First up, the question is, of course, can Trump take federal control of Washington, D.C.? And what are the challenges lined up with the U.S. president clearly threatening to take federal control of the U.S. Capitol?
Yeah, well, first of all, we have to note that the threat came after there was a very high-profile incident that involved teen gang members ganging up on a former DOGE employee. And we've seen this continuously happen. And the issue of illegal guns in the hands of teenagers in D.C., notably downtown D.C., has really been on the rise, despite the fact that, those polls indicate that the crime rate is lower. To take over D.C., as you mentioned, Congress would have to overturn the Home Rules Act of 1973. And before Congress granted D.C. the Home Rule Act, the president appointed the city's mayor, and Congress and unelected commissioners oversaw the district's law and affairs. Now, while he can't do this right away, what he can do is start appointing his administration's friendly judges to key positions, and that would be the closest that, you can federalize sort of D.C. without Congress. But ultimately, if you want to do something like that, Congress holds the final say on the city's law, meaning that even D.C.'s mayor has always had to walk a fine line when it came to implementing certain laws. So it's easier said than done, but nonetheless, the Trump administration really wants to put the issue of vandalism, gang crime in Washington, D.C. to the forefront by saying this.
Right, Susan, thanks for getting us the latest on this. And while staying on with stories from the United States of America, the battle over the proposed redistricting plan in Texas has escalated, with Democratic lawmakers from across the country rallying in Boston, with a group of Texas Democrats who left the state to show their disagreement. The demonstration comes as Trump threatened to involve the FBI to bring Democrats back to Texas over the redistricting issue. More than 50 Democratic lawmakers have left the state of Texas to deny Republicans the quorum which is required to vote on a new congressional district map. Well, out of the 150 seats in the House, the Texas Constitution mandates at least 2/3 of legislators to be present when conducting legislative business. While Republicans don't have that kind of majority, Democrats hold 68 seats. In Austin, the Texas House of Representatives remained without a quorum for a third straight day over Republican-backed redistricting plan.
This tyranny in real time. We've all heard the term gerrymandering, which was founded here in Massachusetts. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Trump-mandering, and all the Republicans are pandering to the Trump-mandering. And if it can happen in Texas, the second largest state in the country, it will happen elsewhere.
This is not a North Carolina or a problem or a Texas problem. It is an American problem. And it is a true constitutional crisis and one that we can stop. In resisting partisan gerrymandering, Texas legislators are not just standing up for their constituents, but the future of our republic itself.
Meanwhile, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has ordered the arrest of over 50 Democratic lawmakers who fled the state. He authorized the Texas Department of Public Safety to find and arrest the absent lawmakers who have taken refuge in Illinois, New York, and Massachusetts. However, the arrest warrants only apply within the Texas state lines. The lawmakers face $500 daily fines and potential removal from office if they don't return. Shifting focus to India now, Election Commission of India has set the ball rolling on vice presidential elections. The poll body has issued a notification laying out the date for the election of India's second highest constitutional position. According to the notification of the Election Commission, the vice presidential election will take place on September 9th, with last date to file the nominations on August 21st. With a fortnight of time left for the nomination deadline, all eyes are now on India's ruling and opposition alliance as to who will be the vice presidential nominee for both the parties. With no clarity on the names yet, let's now take a look at the number game in both the houses of the Indian Parliament. Members of both the houses of Parliament will collectively vote to elect the country's next vice president. And as things stand as of now, the combined strength of both houses is at 782. That sets the magic number for the vice presidential polls to 392 votes. That's the magic number, with the ND Alliance having support of over 400 contestants. Contestants that have the backing of ruling party will likely get elected. The strength of opposition, on the other hand, stands at 313 votes. If ruling alliance fails to nominate a consensus contestant, then the opposition might have a chance on the vice presidential post. And with lots of names floating around for the position, the race for India's vice presidency remains wide open as of now. And it's gloves off between India's leader of opposition, Rahul Gandhi, and the Election Commission, as Gandhi accused the poll body of being hand in glove with the BJP to steal the 2024 election. Well, the EC hit back, asking him to back his claims under oath. In a direct attack on the poll body, Gandhi claimed an internal Congress investigation had unearthed large-scale voter fraud and raised serious questions over the credibility of the 2024 Lok Sabha polls. Gandhi accused the Election Commission of turning a blind eye and even colluding with the ruling BJP. He claimed the EC Election Commission refused to share digital voter rolls, citing secrecy, and suggested a pattern of irregularities in Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh and Haryana. He put out a series of claimed irregularities in conduct of elections, saying that the Election Commission was helping dismantle democracy and demanding that the judiciary step in on this matter.
महाराष्ट्र में विधानसभा में हमारा गठबंधन वाइप आउट हो जाता है और लोकसभा में कुछ ही महीने पहले हमारा गठबंधन स्वीप करता है. वेरी सस्पिशियस. एंड महाराष्ट्र में वी फाउंड एट द स्टेट लेवल दैट लोकसभा और विधानसभा के बीच में 1 crore न्यू वोटर्स केम इनटू द गेम.
The Election Commission has responded sharply, calling the allegations baseless and challenging Rahul Gandhi to file a formal declaration under Rule 20 of the voter registration rules. This would be a legal step with penalties for falsehoods. The Karnataka CEO's office has asked Gandhi to submit the sworn statement by evening today, clearly stating voter roll details he alleges are fraudulent. If not, he has been asked to publicly withdraw his charges as fabricated evidence. Well, the BJP was quick to hit back as well. Union ministers and party veterans accused Rahul Gandhi of losing his cool and tarnishing democratic institutions in India.
राहुल गांधी जी विपक्ष के नेता हैं. इस तरह की गैर जिम्मेदारना शर्मिंदगी भरा टिप्पणी एक संवैधानिक संस्था पर कर रहे हैं. इसके हम बहुत ही भर्त्सना करते हैं. ये राहुल गांधी की खीज है, उनका गुस्सा है, क्योंकि हिंदुस्तान की जनता वोट क्यों नहीं देती. और राहुल गांधी आपके इस चाल चरित्र और आचरण पर देश जनता आपको और नहीं वोट देगी.
झूठ बोल रहे, गलत बयानबाजी कर रहे और जनता का मैंडेट चोरी कर रहे हैं. लोकतंत्र को चोरी कर रहे हैं. लोकतंत्र ने दिया हुआ फैसला चोरी कर रहे हैं. और उनके फिगर भी बार बार बदलते हैं. पिछले समय का महाराष्ट्र में 75 लाख वोट बढ़े, अब का 1 करोड़ वोट बढ़े. महाराष्ट्र के वोटों के बारे में पूरे फैक्ट्स एंड फिगर्स के साथ हमने उनको जवाब दिया. उसके ऊपर वो जवाब नहीं दे पाए.
As a war of words escalates, all eyes are now on Rahul Gandhi. Will he stand by his allegations under oath or walk them back and lose massive face? Either way, the flashpoint that has emerged threatens to deepen. In other news, public trust in Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has dropped to its lowest level in 6 months. A slide that is fueled by recent demonstrations over his controversial move to limit the independence of 2 anti-corruption agencies, the watchdogs in Ukraine. This according to a survey by the Kiev International Institute of Sociology, which says that trust in Zelensky now stands at 58%, down sharply from an 18-month high of 74% in May and 67% during the February and the March quarter. According to the poll, the reasons for the fall in trust are: number 1, dissatisfaction with the state of corruption, and number 2, Zelensky's handling of the war with Russia. The survey was conducted between July 23rd and August 4th through telephonic interviews with more than 1,000 adults in Ukrainian-controlled territory. It is the first major poll since Zelensky faced backlash for fast-tracking legislation that would subordinate key anti-corruption agencies to a hand-picked prosecutor general. The move was met with rare wartime demonstrations. Thousands rallied in Kiev and other cities in late July, accusing the president of undermining institutions critical to Ukraine's fight against corruption. And after widespread demonstrations and pressure, Zelensky repelled the law, saying he respects the position of all Ukrainians. But questions remain over the centralization of power under martial law, something which his office firmly denies. Researchers say that the demonstrations played a role in the trust decline of the Ukrainian president, though the trend had already begun. Zelensky's lowest wartime approval came in December 2024 at 52%. Researchers call the number a worrying signal and urged thoughtful and better decisions from the administration. While trust in Zelensky remains relatively high overall, the continued slide may signal deeper public unease. With elections currently suspended in Ukraine under martial law, it remains to be seen how or when that discontent might shape Ukraine's political future. And while a tight election looms in Norway as the country heads to the polls on September 8th, Prime Minister has his ruling Labour Party and its left-leaning allies remain favourites to win the elections. Well, according to a new opinion poll released this week, Norway's centre-left coalition is heading into next month's parliamentary election as the front-runner. But it's far from a landslide. Prime Minister Jonas Gahr, who currently runs a minority government, is hoping for a second term. With an alliance of left parties, he looks set to win 88 of the 169 seats in parliament. That is down from the 100 seats they held after the last election in 2021. But in a surprise move earlier this year, Støre appointed former NATO Secretary General and ex-Prime Minister Jens Stoltenberg as the finance minister. A decision that strengthened confidence in his leadership amid global uncertainty. With polling days set for September 8th, the margin between Norway's left and right blocs is narrow and every seat could count in what is shaping up to be a competitive race in Norway. In news from South Africa, two senior government officials have found themselves in hot water after being embroiled in an alleged journalist bribery scandal. Well, a local media house, Daily Maverick, has released an explosive video and audio footage from a meeting. In the media house claims that a recording a blatant attempt by a CEO bribing its journalist. The CEO of IDT, a state-owned entity in South Africa, attempted to pay the investigative journalist of a media house named Daily Maverick about $3,000 in cash to suppress an investigation that could have put certain IDT contracts into question. The incident has highlighted the brazenness of corruption in South Africa, especially within the government entities. Now, the IDT is a very important government body that works on social infrastructure projects such as building schools and clinics and falls under the Ministry of Public Works. And as more developments unfold in this scandal from South Africa, correspondent Calvin Ogmu has sent us this report from Johannesburg.
South Africa is trying hard to negotiate the 30% tariff Trump administration has imposed on the country. On Friday, the tariff is set to take effect, but last-minute negotiations and talks are still on. Presidency spokesperson Vincent Magwenya confirmed that two heads of states held a telephonic discussion on August 6th. He said that the two leaders undertook to continue with further engagements, recognizing the various trade negotiations the U.S. is currently involved in. Magwenya further added that respective trade negotiating teams will take forward more detailed discussions. This is Kalden Omar from Johannesburg, South Africa for WION World is One.
And well, that's all that we could pack for you on Race to Power today. Thanks very much for staying with us. You are watching WION World is One. Do stay tuned.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
अबे रिक्शा वाले पैसे ना लेना मैडम से, भाभी है तुम्हारी।
You are mad? ऐसा कुछ नहीं है।
As Ranjana re-releases in Indian cinemas, we tell you why the film's team is not happy.
I've sometimes been called the most famous comedian who nobody knows.
Meet world-renowned stand-up comedian Papa CJ.
Maybe you have to let go of who you were.
And just like that, bid adieu to the much talked about Sex and the City reboot.
We're still gonna have to call it date night in our 50s?
All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.